day, everyone, and actually, Happy New Year's. Welcome back to Ellen Foundation's Unheard Voices. This is the first show of 2019, and I do hope you guys are enjoying the first couple of days we have going into 2019. It's a snow day today, so if you need to get out, be careful. The roads are some of the areas aren't plowed. I'm your host. My name is, again, Pam Price. I'm the ED of Executive Director of Ellen Foundation. And you can tune into Unheard Voices here on Vox Wave every second Sunday. And also, Ron, I'm going to have to give this plug that you can tune into Radio 1, 10:10 a.m. every Friday at 2 p.m. My guest today is one of my guests today is Beverly Smith Brown. She's a first responder, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you for having me.
And she also has a ministry. So first, let's go on and again introduce yourself and what you do and how you got where you are.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Truly excited to be here. My name is Beverly Smith Brown. I am the founder of Mama Safe Haven nonprofit organization. We operate in Ward 7, and we also have programs in Ward 8 as well. I'm a native Washingtonian, grew up in Southeast D.C., number 8 of 9 children, in a single-parent home. Always tell people I was born on Fort Belvoir Army Base, but my mom and dad separated by the time I was 1, so I didn't get a chance to experience that Army brat life. However, I did get a chance to see teen pregnancy, drugs, violence became the norm growing up in Southeast. Mom on drugs, and that was her coping method, was crack. She was definitely a mom who made sure we ate, made sure we had a roof over our head, but the way she coped was crack. And it became a way of life for us because in order for us to cope, we had to, well, I ain't gonna say had to, we chose to sell drugs. And I started at the age of 12. It wasn't something that was frowned upon in my community. And when I got pregnant at 16, I didn't think it was a bad thing because most of my friends got pregnant at 12 and 13.
Oh, okay. So because you now were a little ahead of a little bit older when that happened there.
So it became, a thing of survival and it became the norm. But fast forward, unfortunately, I lost my mom in 94, 3 days after my 19th birthday. It was, one of those times where I just felt that it was a huge turning point in my life. At the age of 19, I found myself with 3 children in a domestic violence relationship, and I was confused. I didn't know what to do.
Wow.
While I was pregnant with my son, my second child, I was physically abused. So when he was born, he didn't have any physical, that I could notice, any physical disabilities. But I noticed as when he got into school, he was always having trouble in school.
He was a little bit behind.
Yeah, it was a chemical imbalance. So after, serious looking into it after him getting put out of daycare center after daycare center, have to constantly go up to the schools. He never had a problem with reading and math, comprehension. He's very intelligent. It was just that ability to sit still, that impulse control.
Right.
And then I had to realize that he did experience trauma in the belly. And
we forget that.
Yeah.
That's a good point that you raised, is that we forget that, as parents, as moms, as we, as you're carrying your unborn child, the things that are happening on the outside are also being passed on to the unborn child. So that was a good point. So I just want to interrupt here for a minute.
Yes.
That a lot of organizations, we talk about domestic violence in October. Domestic violence is more than just an October conversation. It is a year-round conversation. And, especially now in light of so many things that are happening in the in the community. I mean, not just in our community. I mean, it's touching a lot of celebrities. It's peeling back all the things that have happened behind closed doors. And just a reminder, so it's 1 in every 4 adult woman is in a domestic violence situation. 1 in 7 adult male is in a domestic violence situation. So, and I know we talked a little bit prior to us going live, and in looking at all these things that have happened, of course, the R. Kelly and all these other celebrities, and it made me go back and look at our young people, because a lot of times, we worried about the adults, that we tend to forget our young people.
Yeah.
And, and as I was doing some research, it's roughly 1.5 million high school boys and girls in the U.S. admit to being hit or in a physically abusive relationship, which estimates out to one out of every 3 young persons between the ages of 12 and 18. And, if these young people, especially as you're going through adolescence, if you are not getting the required help, along with adolescents, and we know as a parent that and even when we were growing up, adolescence is really tough time for anybody. But then to have this piece added on. Now, you mentioned your son, as you noticed, out of that domestic violence situation, that there were some issues. Now, I looked up, I'm always fascinated about numbers and how our closed door behavior affects us. Because we of color, we've always been taught what goes on in this house stays in this house and no one gets healed. And that's the problem, is that we need to make sure that these people are healed and get the healing that they need. And if they are not receiving any healing, then what happens is that they begin to deal with that internally. They begin to deal with that in such a manner where it begins to cause truancy. It begins to affect them to the point where, I was hurt, so I'm going to go hurt somebody else, or I'm going to go do this and get back. So let's talk about your son as he's gotten older, and your other children. For, as a matter of fact, that as what happened in that transition when they came into becoming an adult, a young adult.
So it's really one of those things that in the midst of it happening, I couldn't see, right? Because of the trauma that I experienced. And in this now as a mom, right? As a teen mom and growing up with my children. But it was a thing where my son, so I have 3 girls and 1 boy. And so my son was one, that was the only pregnancy that I experienced domestic violence while I was pregnant with him. And like I said, it was clear that there was distinct differences because with my son, he got put out of every school that he went to, every daycare center. He caught his first charge when he was 12 years old. My daughters, on the other hand, always excelled. Always excelled. My baby girl, who is 18 now, I call her my angel because she's a prayer warrior. When I was pregnant with her, I was heavy into church and I prayed constantly. Is when I gave my life over to God in 1999. I gave birth to her in 2000. So she is my angel. I have a 23-year-old who loves basketball and travels all over playing basketball, and who is actually a basketball coach. And
really?
She's an amazing writer. She co-wrote some scripts with me. She became a published poet in 6th grade. So her poem was published in a book at 6th grade, and she wrote her first play in 6th grade. My oldest daughter is just bought her second home. She's about to start her own daycare center. She's 26.
Okay.
My son, 24 years old, has been in and out of the juvenile system, who has just caught another charge and is facing 15 years in prison.
Right.
He has done everything from rob people to stealing cars. Like I said, since he was 12 years old when he caught his first charge. And I say his first charge, but that wasn't his first offense. And it was one of those things that I did not condone.
Right. Do we have somebody on the line, Ron? Okay. So I know the Equal Justice Initiative published in February of 2018 that many young children in America are imperiled by the abuse and neglect and things that happen on, and they coming out of abusive relationships, they do struggle with excelling in school and things like that. And as I mentioned earlier, they want to go back in and turn around and hurt someone, because they were hurt. And right now, well, as of when this was published in 2018, at least 10,000 young people from the age of 12 are housed in adult jail system. Wow. And then at any given day of the year in the United States, and from there, some 3,000 children nationwide have been sentenced to life imprisonment. So, you look at those numbers and it's like our children, our babies are being charged as adults. I mean, I get it, they do, they're doing adult crimes or, may have 3 strikes or all those things. Yeah. But at the end of the day, they're still babies. They're still babies. Now, as a first responder, explain what is it that you do?
So, as a first responder with the Alliance of Concerned Men, I respond to crime alerts. So the DC system, the DC government has a system whenever there is a crime, a stabbing, a violent crime, a stabbing or shooting. They have alerts, and I receive alerts for the zip code 232, which is in Southeast DC.
Okay.
And that's a high crime area. So when I receive an alert, my job is to locate the victim and to make sure that the victim is aware of their rights and the services that the city has to offer. We do not work with the police, and we don't share information with the police. Our job is to interrupt violence to see if we can circumvent it from happening. And to the Alliance of Concerned Men, we've been known to bring a truce in any kind of gang violence or to stop retaliation. Just recently, there was an incident where a young man was shot. And we went and located the victim, spoke with him, and he was coming forth with who did it, and we were able to contact the perpetrator, get the information from the perpetrator on what actually happened, and they were able to create a truce where there was no more retaliation being done in that case. So that's basically what we do, is to build a relationship and also refer them to other services. Because what we have found is that a lot of the victims as well as the perpetrators typically have some kind of background issues, whether it be finances, lack of resources. So we connect them with those different resources to try to, again, stop retaliation.
How many young people do you come across in this? Do you find that in these situations, do you find that it's majority younger people versus the adults? I'm just curious what you see as a first responder, how things are, what's happening, what from your eyes.
Yeah, unfortunately, we see more between the age of that 16 to 25, that 20, 30-year-old. A lot of the victims are younger. I know the first crime scene that I went to January 1st, he was a 19-year-old man who was shot down, that was murdered. And after that, it was 3 other young ones that was younger than 25. So I think our total is up to 8 already homicides. We had 5 in 24 hours. So, and most of those, I would say, out of that 8, 4 were between that age.
Wow.
We also work with the victim family, as well as that community. I know one family in particular was not the victim, but it happened in their apartment building. The children were traumatized by the gunshots and the blood that was still in the apartment building a week after it happened.
When was this?
January 1st.
Was that from a domestic violence situation?
It wasn't. It was a young man that was similar to the other case that happened when he was chased in the building. So this young man was also chased into an apartment building and shot down. And like I said, the blood was not removed, and that family was traumatized. So we offer services also to those families, and there were minors. So when you think about who was directly affected by the trauma, and also people who were indirectly affected by the trauma. So that number is staggering, as to answer your question of how many.
Right.
It's just staggering. We have youth at Anacostia High School, the young man that was killed. So we have a whole high school who's affected by it. So the numbers are staggering as it relates to it.
How much do you see on the domestic violence side?
Oh, domestic violence is, I want to say 50% of it is domestic.
Wow.
50% of it is domestic.
That's a high number.
Because when you look at domestic violence, it's relationship based.
Absolutely.
So it can be brother, sister, family. You have a relationship, right?
Right.
So it's not always that intimate partner, domestic violence. But when you're in a household and you're dealing with a situation, it's domestic.
Right.
And it's really staggering because it becomes so taboo. One of the things with the NEAR Act is, really policing our community and giving the power to our community to really be proactive. I really feel that there's ways that we can diffuse situations before it goes to the level of physical.
Right.
And, you hear the verbal abuse, have those, that phone tree of people of knowing that we can be a mediator in the community and someone you can go to and just mediate. So
that number is so staggering that it's at, what you see, and that's only you.
Yes, yep.
And that's not others, because you're only one of thousands that see, these calls of domestic violence situation. So as most of the family know that for me, I was not the direct domestic violence survivor. My best friend is a domestic violence survivor. And I remember she had come to my home, almost 30 years ago. And, and I knew by the language that she used at the time that she and her son were being abused. But she never came out. But because of the lack of knowledge or the lack of information back then, 30 years ago, that was shared, I didn't know. And then shelters weren't as big. I mean, it was not as publicized as back then. So she would make little hints, or, she would come to the house and, have a little mark or something, and she'll say, she's got hurt by, walking into the wall, or the kids, or she was playing with the kid. And then one day she came to the house, and she was talking about how, she's going through this domestic violence situation. And now her child, who was at the time 10, was starting to act out that same behavior against her. So as she came looking for help from my household, I was not able to help her because we had to take into account, you know, we don't know all of what's going on inside of that house.
Yeah.
So, and you know, when people's emotions get going and they pass that threshold, that's a whole different level of crazy.
Yeah.
We don't want no parts of.
That's right.
Okay, because you can't reel it back once it starts. So, I had to decide, you know, either keep my home safe or take her, you know, send her away. Yeah. Take her in or send her away. I had to send her away. To this day, 30 years later, I don't know where she is. You know, I kind of have an idea, but, you know, you're not sure. And so right now, I don't know. Yeah. So in being not the direct receiver of the domestic violence, but being the second level, and people forget that, you know, even though it's not directly, you have close friends, close relatives that are in that situation that are looking to you to help, and you're affected by it. Yeah. You know, so it's amazing how it carries on for years and years and years if you don't get help.
Yeah. Yeah, that counseling is important, and being able to heal from the root. Right. You know, being able to heal from the root of understanding. What I had to understand as a survivor was that what you think of me is none of my business. You know, because it was that whole people pleasing. Right. You know, and as we think about that whole R. Kelly situation, we was talking about it earlier. About the importance of just loving on each other, right? And looking at those people who are right there for you, because sometimes those are the ones we overlook. Right. And then that person who, that whole hurt person, you know, hurt people. Right. You identify with that hurt, and then you become a target, right? And get caught up in a situation of just trying to you know, heal each other, but you're both hurt. So it's a toxic relationship. Right. Instead of healing, you're digging that knife deeper and triggering other things. But also understanding, you know, who you are and whose you are. I like that. Yeah, and that was one of the survival tactics that I think helped me out of. Right, because one of the things I see in that survivor R. Kelly piece is they had the opportunity to leave and wasn't held captive, but didn't want to leave. Right, and I know what that feels like to just feel like, you know, he needs me or I need him, and we are leaning on that. But that whole piece of getting counseling, right, and being able to lean on a stronger person that's not going to use your vulnerability against you, right, and being able to share in that safe place of, okay, this person I'm sharing this with won't use it against me.
Yeah, and that's something that that we need to teach our babies and even ourselves, because as an adult or as a teenager going into young adulthood, you know, I didn't really understand you know, I see my mom and dad, but, you know, they're mom and dad. Yeah, you know? So, but you don't really understand the importance of having a solid foundational relationship in your home or with your friends. And people, what I've learned over the years is that people tend to forget that domestic violence is not only, you know, spouse and spouse on spouse or spouse on children. It's friend on friend. Yeah. It's work, because you know work will abuse you just as bad as somebody in. Yeah, absolutely. That's right. So with that, we have to understand and we have to know the signs. Yeah. that's the important part, is that we have to teach our community what are the important signs of domestic violence or violence, period.
Yeah.
Lack of communication is one, and we have to make sure we understand it's lack of communication. When somebody is always calling you out your name,
that verbal abuse,
or they're holding hostage your money, your financial situation, where you don't know how to move forward without this person telling you can go see your parents or you can go see your family, because they will put that cone around you where nobody is allowed to see you. And it goes back, I was just really amazed at a lot of the stuff that R. Kelly, that was being uncovered in the R. Kelly series. It was, of course, we knew the stuff that was, we heard about back when with Aaliyah.
Yeah.
And, and as I was watching that, I was like, where are the adults?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And one of the things I think is, distractions, right? And that can be the excuse, right? That can be, because I was just speaking on, that was my story, but this guy was not R. Kelly.
Yeah.
He didn't have R. Kelly money.
Right,
it was one of those things of lack of love and looking for that thing, right? And he had that thing of, putting them on, so to speak, of giving them that opportunity.
Right.
And when you look at how fragile, they talk about the love of money is the root of all evil, but the lack of money, right? The lack of money is just as bad, because what would you do for money? And people look at it and say, it's not about the money, because for me, again, I was in that same situation. He didn't have a whole boatload of money, but I think that when you look at the core of what people will do, right, for the fame and for the money, right, of what, because when you look at Aaliyah, they said that her uncle was there, right? And being able to, and then I heard one of the young girls say how she would hear how R. Kelly would tell the parents and gain their trust. And he was saying how she would sit and talk about how she would protect, how he was going to protect this young girl in front of the parents. And she knew that R. Kelly was having sex with this young girl because she was engaging in sex with them and the young girl. And I thought about how the mental, how it plays on your mental psyche when they're so young and impressionable in that way.
Right.
And even with the parents, and Aaliyah parents finally did step in. I think they mentioned something about $100 or something like that. But I think, when people really look at the damage that can be done, in the midst of things happening, you get lost in translation and translation, and so many lives are hurt. Because just like you said, where were the adults? Where was the outrage back when that was happening?
Right.
Us as a people with the whole mute R. Kelly, right? But it's always that thing of, really just wanting to push aside what we don't want to see.
Absolutely.
Right? When he has this genius of step in the name of love and I believe I can fly, right? 12 play and all of those songs, right? He was really speaking it out.
Right.
Age ain't nothing but a number, right? And we were grooving to the beat.
And that's something that we as a community, not just with R. Kelly and these young girls. I mean, you think about what's his name, Kevin Spacey, the
Elvis Presley, and
don't
talk about Hefner,
the priests and things, and how they are taking advantage of our kids, and it's always, as I mentioned earlier, it's usually between the ages of 12 and what is it, 16, 17, 18,
Yeah.
usually between that age, because they're very impressionable. And especially when you become a teenager, when you go through that metamorphosis where, you feel that nobody loves you, you want someone, if they're going to speak those words to you and be really nice, and, and after a while, what adults will lend the predators, what they will do is that they'll listen out for those main words that you're using, and they will turn around and say, I love you.
Yeah.
Or I can help you. Yeah. Or I can give you this. Or I can do this. And that way it creates a very close-knit relationship with them, because now these young people believe that they understand them. Yeah. What they're going through. But we as the adult community, we as parents and, school teachers and things, we need to make sure that we let these children know that we're here for them to talk. And I believe that is why they go off to others, because they don't feel that they can come to us, the mom and dad. Yeah. I know I didn't go and talk to my parents about a lot of things. I would talk to everybody else, but I would not go to my parents because, number one, I didn't think they would understand about stuff. And then, we pass that down to our kids, where we make it feel that our kids can't come and talk to us. We have to begin to, I remember back in the day, I was a substitute teacher as I was going to school, and I remember I used to tell the kids, put on your listening ears, and that way it would open up the conversation to make them understand that I'm here for you. Yeah. And so I say that as an adult, that we need to put on our listening ears so as to make it a safe space, a safe place for our kids to come to us. Any kid. Yeah. We, again, just looking at the numbers, if they don't get the help, then we're looking at truancy, we're looking at, self-medication, we're looking at all these different things to get them through everything. Yeah. And we don't want that. We want to protect our kids. Yeah. I'll let you go in and jump in, because I'll be ranting on about these kids.
But that's so important as it relates to that, because our children are the future. Yes. And it's so important for us to take that time out instead of judging them. Yeah. Because I had to realize that it's not about what we think about ourselves. It's what you think. It's what I think you think about me. Right. Right? So I'm going to fix what I think you think, and I'm going to try to be that instead of having the confidence to be who I am and owning it. Right. So I think that we have to, one, validate our youth and let them know that you have an area of competence. Right. And that's important for everyone to know what their area of competence is, and knowing that you don't have to be all-knowing. And I work outside of Mama Safe Haven nonprofit organization. My daytime job, I am an outreach and admissions counselor for Job Corps. Okay. Job Corps totally helped my family in so many areas of bouncing back. But I have a lot of youth that we work with, youth ages 16 to 24 with vocational educational program and housing. But so many of you come and say, I don't know what I want to do. That's a good place to be, because you don't always have to have it all figured out. When you have youth, and I know for myself as a mom, it's really hard to separate being a mom and being that counselor for your youth, because some of the things I just can't handle as a mom. I'm going to just be honest. Some of the conversations I can't handle. Now, my 18-year-old, she's very transparent, right? This girl, she would tell me, exactly where she's at, what she's doing, and she'll be smiling. We have FaceTime. Right. Oh, I'm over here with us. Oh, really? Yes, Mom, this is where I'm at. And I'm just like, she's honest, right? Yeah. She's honest. She gives you the truth, whether you like it or not. And I think as parents, it's important for us to allow our youth that opportunity to be humans.
Yes.
Even in the church, and I'm going to go there just for a minute,
Yes.
as it relates to that transparency of knowing that, you know, you have made mistakes, you know, that you are not a robot, that we're not condoning a mistake, but you have room for growth.
Yes.
And that part can be exposed as it relates to you, you know, repenting and going further to better yourself. I think our youth looks to us as it relates to that validation, you know, to validate
that's a
them.
really good point.
Yeah.
And again, it goes back. If we do not love on our babies,
Yeah, we got to. That's so important.
if we are not, and it's a journey.
Ooh, yeah.
It is a journey because, you know, we as parents only have the tools that were passed down to us. And then we have to develop them so as our children become parents, that they're able to, you know, grow and, you know, pass on better tools down and down and down. And we have to love on them. We as parents, we need to be able to grow.
Yeah.
I know it takes me a long time to be like, you know what, I need to grow here.
Yeah.
But, you know, after a certain age, we become stuck in our you know, our ways.
Yeah.
But we have to, especially now with so many things out there that are open.
There's no more closets.
There's no more closets. I mean, you just type in something on the internet, and Lord knows,
Bam.
if it's not what you're really looking for, you might get a different site that might engage them.
Yeah.
So
so
now
scary.
with so many things that are out there where our children have access to, we need to make sure that they know that regardless of whatever has happened or whatever is going on, we need to love on them. And let them know that this is a safe space. I may not like what you got to say. But we're going to move on from that. And like I said, for me, it took me a long time to even get to that place. But every day is a journey. You know, for me to grow to, even though my kids are adults, you know, I have adult kids, but you know, I look at myself like now it's time for me to learn from them. But still always let them know Mama is still here for them. I'm the mama.
And that's the part. I have an empty nest now. All four of mine are grown.
Oh, right.
And I'm a grandmother. And it's one of those things where I had to reflect. I said, you know what? I have to trust that I did what God gave me. I did the best that I could with them, and that, you know, those are my hearts with arms and legs. But I know that God is a God that sits high and look low. And if He did it for me, He'd do it for the other. I wrote a book entitled He Kept Me.
I was just getting ready to ask you about your book here.
So this book came, you know, after the abuse, losing, I lost 3 sisters, died before the age of 40, and just overcame some things that I had to run out of the old, would you say, the old clothes of who I was. And I said, and I saw my community going in this, the spiral. You know, we will dib and dab in, you know, marijuana and alcohol, but when I see my friends going to dippers, and you know, they're, you know, I see them. I'm sorry. So when I see my friends, you know, walking and holding on to the fence and don't know who I am, I'm like, whoa. But I escaped. I ran and moved to Burke, Virginia. And I had an opportunity to purge, and it wasn't anything that I wanted to do. I was in school writing a book about, it was autobiography, that paper that I had to write. And I embellished in that paper, and I wrote stuff that wasn't true. I never was ashamed of being a mom, But and I got a good grade on that paper, but I couldn't sleep. You know, the Holy Spirit was dealing with me, and I could not stop writing.
Right.
And it took me 3 months to write this book. And I knew it wasn't a book. I just knew it wasn't. And, and God was like, that's not your story. That's my story. You have to tell my story of how I kept you. And I was like, okay. And that's where the title came from. God told me he kept me. You don't have to stand there and be any type of person. You don't have to speak a certain kind of way. Just do it. Just go. And I'll give you the words, and I'll give you the platform, and I'll give you the things. And I went forth. And this book, again, for me, it was something that allowed me to open up the doors to heal. You know, that was the first step of healing. And Mama Safe Haven was created out of concern for everybody that reached out to me and asked me, how did I overcome? And it was just an overwhelming amount of calls that was coming through. And I attend Victory Christian Ministry International with Pastor Cynthia and Tony Brazelton. Right. And I will always go to the altar, any altar call. I love the altar call. And I went in the back and I was praying and they said, so, you know, why are you here? And I didn't know why. And then Antoinette, Pastor Tony's daughter, she said, you know, I feel the grace of God all over your life. Wow. And she said, just know people going to come to you. And I didn't tell them about Mama Safe Haven or the mission that God was giving me. And she told me, she said, people are going to come to you with their issues. And she said, it's so important for you to pray for them right there and not carry it with you. Right. So I had to learn that even though God gave me this book, it wasn't in my power to fix anybody or to be a certain kind of way, that it was so important for me to be who I am. And God said that I am enough. He said that you can go forth and be your authentic self and not try to talk in a certain kind of way and be in, but just authentically be who I call. And I know I can have some little, you know, they always say, oh, you know, I'm a Scorpio. So, you know, they say all kinds of things that come with your sign, or she from Southeast, or she's short and brown skin. But you know, they put those things on you.
But that's the realness. You know, like I tell people, I said, look, you know, I'm a born again believer, but don't get it twisted.
Come on.
Okay? Don't get it twisted. Don't back me in the corner.
Yeah.
Don't have me go back and be like, Lord, I'm sorry, I got to go take care of this.
Yeah.
But that is me.
Yeah.
That is for what I do in the community. You know, it makes it easier for me to, you know, when hurting people come in there say, Pam, you know, I'm hungry, or my light's getting ready to be turned off, or I'm getting ready to get put out of my house. It makes it so easy for me to turn around and embrace them with the love and say, I understand.
Yeah.
You see, because God kept me through all
Come
of
on
that.
now. Yeah.
Okay. So all of everything that we go through, and even in domestic violence situation, and you know, everything is a healing process. And so that is why it's important that as we continue to walk our journey, that we can continue to heal those areas that we need to have healed. Because over the years we compartmentalize. Yep. That's how we do it. All the things that have happened. Yeah. And in order for us to become whole, in order for us to stop hurting other people, because we're hurt, we got to deal with those little issues in the corner that's a little tucked away. You know, over the years, and yeah, I mean, it's a journey, it's a process. Yeah. So I'm so glad that you joined it, because we're gonna finish this conversation, because I love how, you know, you number one, you respond to the needs of the community, not only as a first responder, but in your mission, what God has called you to do. Yeah. So I think that is, you know, you're looking at it from both sides. You're looking at it on the emergency services side, but then you also are looking at it as the ministry. So that's great stuff. How can people get a hold of you? Well,
we have our website is Mama Safe Haven is www.mommasafehaven.org.
Okay.
You can contact us by email at info@mamasafehaven.org. We're on Facebook, and that's my page is Beverly Smith Brown.
Okay.
Also, Mama Safe Haven, as well as the handles on Instagram as well. I do want to say one thing about as it relates to self-care. As we talk about trauma and dealing with all of those different things, yesterday I took the day. And I always say, you know, it is when the Spirit moves you to just take a day where you're not thinking or doing anything, you're just relaxing.
Right.
And it's, you know, sometimes you can't, you know, you can want to go take a trip and hop on a plane, but a lot of times you can do it right in your bathroom with just some bubble bath or light an incense or something like that and just relax and take that time to shut down. And doing a fast of, you know, just denying your flesh or certain foods to calm your gut down.
Because that's
in your belly.
That we need to
do. I've been working on fasting and praying as it relates to just being able to hear from God on what He wants us to do and in this ministry, because what I found is so many people will again see you as a savior and put this heavy weight, or you said you was going to do, and that's one of the things I had to get out of doing is promising people things, and that's you know, because we're not God. And I say, you know, in service, not to be held in bondage to the people you're serving, because it can get in a state of comfortability with you in rescue mode and them knowing that. So just, you know, just want to put that out to those people who are doing, to remember to save yourself first as we are doing, and never feel bad for taking a break as it relates to the work that is being done, because I remember an older lady asked me, who come first, you or your children? And my friend said, well, my kids come first. And I wanted to sit and listen what she was going to say.
Right.
And I knew she was going to say something, but she said, if you're not okay, how are you going to take care of your children?
That's right.
Here you have these strong children, and now you over here all weak and not understanding. So it's so important for you to grow with your children. As they're going to school, you take some classes. Yeah. And that was one of the things that helped me out of my situation. And today I'm married. My husband, I met, you know, God blessed me and him with us coming together, and it has been truly a dream come true as it relates to a union, and all the things that God said was possible started to come once I realized to take myself out of the equation and just and when I hear so many people say, girl, I know you tired because you're doing this and doing that and doing this, and I say, really, I feel like I'm floating.
I understand that piece, because that is because you're doing something that you love to do. Yeah. You know, that is your calling. Yeah. So that's why it doesn't feel like a burden getting up.
Yeah.
You know? So do you have any upcoming events or anything coming up?
Yes, we do. Thank you. Mama Safe Haven, we're excited to be hosting our 6th annual DC's Youth Has Talent Black History Show. Super excited. We have over 100 youth on stage, 3 hours of dancing, singing, poetry, skits. We have the elementary school bands come out and do a band competition. It's a free event for everyone to come out and participate. We're going to be back at my alma mater, Charles Hart Middle School, 601 Mississippi Avenue, Saturday, February the 23rd from 12 to 3.
That's beautiful.
So, yeah, super excited about that. We're also working on a foundation for Miss Mary's Healing Center, to bring like-minded organizations together under one roof to heal those who have been affected by trauma.
That's beautiful. You know, again, I thank you.
Thank you.
For joining the conversation, and because it's important that, you know, our family out there that's watching and listening, that they know that there are organizations that are out here to help, that are here to give you the resources to help along the way. Again, family, please know the signs, and do not be hesitant. If you know of someone that's in a situation, and they do not be hesitant to dial 911. I know in our community we tend not to dial 911, but you know, please dial 911, get the help that's required. Those of you who are in a domestic violence situation, please seek help, seek counseling, make a plan, because you can't leave if you don't know how you're going to go or where you're going to go. Make sure you have a plan in place. If you want to get additional information, please dial the domestic violence hotline, which is 1-800-799-SAFE, 1-800-799-SAFE, which is 799-7233. So again, God bless you on the work that God is doing with you and your organization, and just in coming out of that situation. We're going to be praying over your son.
Awesome.
As he goes through this situation, as he appears in court soon. So we're going to lift that up in prayer. So no worries on that. Family, I know, what day are we on? Day 21? What day is this on the furlough for the government shutdown? Is it 21?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah. So, family, I know right now it's a tough time out here for a lot of families. So I just want to give you guys some locations to contact if you are a furlough employee and you need help with food or need. Please, well, you can always call Ellen Foundation. You can contact me directly. My number is 240-284-6825. Again, 240-284-6825. Or you can go to my website, which is www.thelmfoundation.org. Send me an email, send me contact me email, so that way we can get you help. Also, you can contact Feed My Sheep Ministry, the executive director. His name is Darian Cole. His number is 301-980-6551. Again, 301-980-6551. That's Feed My Sheep Ministry. They will help you with whatever your need is as well. And the last one I want to share is Fred Gaskins. He is with Bethel Ministries. Forgive me, Fred, if I said it incorrectly. But you can contact him directly at 202-549-3715. Please, family, as you go through this as a furlough employee, I'm going to keep my mouth shut on what I think about that. But just stay encouraged through this. And, there's a lot of resources out there to help you in this time of need. Follow us on Facebook or all social media platforms. LM Foundation 1 is Instagram and Twitter. And, of course, LM Foundation Inc. on Facebook. Continue to walk through this. I am not happy about this government shutdown, because what people don't understand is that it's not just the government it's going to affect. It's going to affect a lot of other things. So just hold on as we ride this wave. Stay in tune with Ellen Foundation. Again, we can be seen here every second Sunday at 11:30 a.m. My awesome engineer, thank you so much for doing what you do, because without you, there'd be no me. So thank you. I appreciate you. And family, visit our website. We got some great stuff coming up very soon. We have a financial wellness workshop that's coming up in March 21st, 22nd. It's going to be here at in Largo, 9701 Apollo Drive. We have our STEAM event that's coming up, which is going to be in April 20th, where we're working with our young people and we're teaching them how to have fun, learning that math, science, technology. So please visit our website. Again, God bless you. I appreciate you. Family, stay safe, stay warm. Thank you so much for tuning in. And again, Happy New Year. God bless you. I love you guys. Bye-bye.